Hello, I'm Brad Williams. I'm with College Options, and I'm going to talk today in this video about financial aid. And as I've told families over the years, financial aid is not the most exciting topic or perhaps the most entertaining, but it is quite an important topic. So I am going to share my screen. I'm going to share with you a PowerPoint presentation that I have put together about financial aid. And we're going to take a look at that together. Get a pointer here that I'll be able to use. All right, so we're going to be talking about financial aid for the 2023-2024 academic year. Again, my name is Brad Williams. I am with College Options. I'm available to you at any time that you would like to talk about anything about financial aid. The way you can contact me is my email address. That's the best way to get a hold of me, bwilliams@collegeoptions.org. I'll also give you my office phone number right here, 530-768-5103. Rings right to my office. I travel a lot to different high schools, so I'm not always in my office. If you do call, you leave a message, I will get back to you. I promise I'll get back to you. But again, the best way to get me most directly and probably the quickest response from me would be at my email address right there. College Options is on social media at College Options Inc. on Facebook and on Instagram. We've also got a website, collegeoptions.org. It's got a ton of great information there. I am particularly fond of the financial aid portion of that website under the financial aid tab. Check that out. Lots of great resources there for you to consider. Also, I want you to know that this financial aid presentation, this PowerPoint presentation, as well as some supplemental handouts that are found in this presentation, can be found at the financial aid tab on our website, labeled as 2023-2024 financial aid presentation and materials. Scroll down, click on that link, and you'll get a drop-down menu. You'll see all of that information available for you and to you. A quick word about College Options. We serve these 5 counties as noted right here. All of our services are free, for which we are very, very, very grateful. And we have 3 primary service lines, if I can refer to them that way. I'm going to give you a brief review of each of them. The first, academic or college preparation. Can you help me with my college applications? Can you help me with my essays on my college applications? Can you help me with my essays on my scholarship applications? And we've got people that can help with that in all cases. Or can you take a look at my transcript and look at the courses I've taken, and am I taking the right courses to get into the post-high school training that I'd like to get into? Second would be career exploration. We've got an expert in the field. My colleague, Dan Haskins, is an expert in this field. We have a tool, a web-based tool that is called U-Science, Y-O-U Science. It takes not only what you're interested in, but also what you are good at, so interest plus aptitude, and it will give you a set of careers. We'll tell you how much each of those careers would pay on an annual basis. And we'll also let you know if there's any training or education required to get into those careers. And if so, we'll even put together an educational plan for you. By the way, for this and any other services provided by College Options, a lot of people believe that it's just services that are just provided for high school students. We do provide services for high school students, but also for any students, also for adults, friends, neighbors, relatives, yourself as parents, grandparents, whoever would be looking for help or services, we are willing to provide them from this 5-county region, and all at no cost. Okay, so our third service line would be financial aid. That's what I do. Anything financial aid. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. I help families fill out the FAFSA from time to time if they'd like help with that. So I'm more than willing to help. We can communicate by email, by phone, by Zoom, in-person meetings, whatever would work best. I'm very much willing and able to do that with you. Here are my goals whenever I give one of these presentations. I've got them 5 listed here. I'm just gonna talk about the first 2. Number 1, primary goal, take the mystery out of the financial aid process and provide a basic understanding of how financial aid works. I understand, for parents particularly, and for some students, the whole process of financial aid seems very mysterious, intimidating, complicated, confusing. Whatever words you put on it, I accept that, I acknowledge that. So my goal with this presentation is to help take the mystery out of the process. Hopefully you'll feel a little more calm, a little less stressed about pursuing financial aid for yourself or for your son or daughter. Second goal would be to provide an understanding of how you can maximize your potential for financial aid as a family, particularly how you can maximize your potential for free money, the free money portion of financial aid. Not all financial aid is free money, but we want to talk about that. Here are the 4 types of financial aid. There are 4 types of financial aid, and they are listed here. The first on this right-hand side, scholarships and grants. And as I tell families all the time, we love scholarships and we love grants. Why do we love them so much? Because it is free money. And we would love to have as much of that as we can. Give me some of that, give me some more of that. And hey, how about a little bit more of that? So free money, love that. The next one would be work study. That would be the offer through financial aid to get a job, typically on campus at a school. And if you get a work study job, that's great. The federal government subsidizes to some extent those jobs for schools. That's how they can offer it as a financial aid offer in a financial aid package. So if you're a work study school, you would apply for a job, you would interview for a job, get the job, work hard, keep the job, you get paid, you use that money, some of that pay that you get for that job to help you pay for your schooling. By the way, what I tell students is if you're not a work study student, no big deal, no problem. There's plenty of other jobs on campus that you could get for yourself, not being a work study student, that's okay. Or you can get a job off campus, Target, Starbucks, or someplace like that, make money, earn money, and use it to pay for your schooling. And then the fourth would be loans. That's borrowed money. So we have 2 types of free money. We have earned money in work study, and we have loans that are borrowed money. I particularly don't believe that loans should even be part of a financial aid package, but they are. That's the way it's laid out to be. So I also suggest that you may find yourself getting a financial aid offer that is, really, really big offer. Might be that, I'm just using my hands here to demonstrate. Maybe a really big offer. You sort through it, you take a look at it, and you find, and you congratulate yourself for getting such a big offer, such a fine offer of financial aid, and you find out that, that much of it is loans that you've got to pay back. Well, that's not a great financial aid award. We'd love to see more and more free money, of course. Okay, so we've got 4 types of financial aid, and they're coming primarily from 3 sources. They're listed here: federal government, state government, and of course, in our case, that's California, and then the colleges and universities themselves. Schools have their own money that they can give away to students. Public schools have some of their own money, public schools like the University of California schools, the California state schools. But private schools have even more of their own money. They have endowments. Private schools are very expensive, by the way, or can be. They're more expensive than public schools. And because they have endowments. Donors have given money to these schools, which they put into an endowment with the sole purpose of that school giving that money away to students so they can afford to attend that expensive private school. And some private schools have really, really large endowments, like Harvard, for example, has a $50 billion endowment, and there are others that have billions of dollars of endowment as well. So even though private schools can look to be very expensive, don't give up on private schools. That's one of my messages. You may be very surprised at the very generous offer of free money that a school will give you out of their own pocket, so to speak. There are other sources of financial aid, private sources like Rotary Club, civic organizations, chambers of commerce, and then also some employers where you work for them, they'll give you some tuition payments as well. But these are smaller amounts. By far, the huge majority, the vast majority of financial aid comes from the federal government, state of California, or from the schools themselves. Okay, what is the FAFSA? Well, it's the free application for federal student aid. It is your gateway to those 4 types of financial aid coming from these 3 primary sources right down here. The FAFSA will collect information from the student, and in most cases from the parents as well. Income information, asset information, and demographic information from the student and from parents. It's also used to calculate what's called the expected family contribution value, or EFC. The EFC is a very, very, very complicated formula created by the federal government. And I know some of you are saying, hey, I can't believe that. It's a complicated formula created by the government, but yes, it's true. Believe me. The EFC is calculated using 5 pieces of data. Those 5 are income, assets, number in the household going to college, and the age of the oldest parent. They're not equally weighted, and again, a very complicated formula. All right, there are some important dates, some important info for the 2023-2024 academic year. First of all, both the FAFSA and the CADA open on October 1st. The CADA is the California DREAM Act application. I'm going to talk more about that in a few minutes. You either, as a student, you either file a FAFSA or a CADA, not both. For the next academic year, 2023-2024, we're actually going to be using 2021 tax year income off of your 2021 tax return. So it gets a little confusing. You can fill out the FAFSA in 2022 after October 1st. We're looking forward into 2023, 2024, but we're actually reaching back to 2021 to get your income for that FAFSA. So a little complicated, but just be aware of those timelines and those dates. There is a priority deadline for the Cal Grant. By the way, the Cal Grant, probably the most generous offer of free money from any state in the country. Priority deadline is March 2nd. There are 5 requirements to qualify for a Cal Grant. You graduate from a California high school, you've got a certain GPA level, your parents' income is under a certain income ceiling, your parents' assets are under a certain asset ceiling, and you file your FAFSA by March 2nd. You qualify in all 5 of those categories, you will get a Cal Grant. Not to worry, the state will not run out of money. Okay, when you file a FAFSA, multiple agencies are going to get your FAFSA information as soon as you file the FAFSA. As soon as you hit submit on your FAFSA, your information goes out simultaneously to multiple locations, and they're designated here, or denoted, I should say, by these picnic baskets. So first of all, your information goes to the federal government. The federal government's looking at your financial information to determine if you're eligible for free money from the federal government called the Pell Grant. They're also looking at your financial information to determine if you're eligible for federal student loans. And what I say all the time to families is, I don't know where you are on the continuum of, at one end, student loans are okay, not a big deal. On the other end, student loans are the worst thing ever created in the history of mankind. Perhaps they were even created by the devil himself. So wherever you are on that continuum, that's a family decision. But I will say this, if you are a student and you find yourself in need of student loans, federal loans are the best, without a doubt, by far. You don't need to look anywhere else. They've got the lowest interest rates, the lowest origination fees, and the best repayment options. So it's good to be eligible for federal student loans just in case you need them. Again, simultaneously with your information going to the federal government, it also goes to the state government. In our case, that's the state of California. More specifically, that's the California Student Aid Commission. They're located in Rancho Cordova. They administer over $4 billion of financial aid every year for California students. And they're going to look at your financial information to determine if you're eligible for two different programs of which they offer free money. One is the Cal Grant, a very, very generous offer of free money, which I'm going to talk about more in a few minutes. The other, in case you don't qualify for a Cal Grant, perhaps your family makes too much money to qualify for the Cal Grant, you could still qualify for the California Middle Class Scholarship, which is also an offer of free money from the state of California. And by the way, when you file a FAFSA, you're automatically applying for, if you will, a Cal Grant and the California Middle Class Scholarship, because all your information goes to the state of California. There's not a separate application for that. Finally, when you hit submit on your FAFSA and all your information goes out simultaneously, it also goes to every school that you list on your FAFSA. When you first fill out your FAFSA, you can list 10 schools on there. 10 schools is usually plenty for most students, but for some, it's not enough. So if you want to add more schools, or you want more schools to get your FAFSA information, here's my suggestion, is that you let the FAFSA information process for a week or two. Then after that, you can come back into your FAFSA, take some of those schools off because they will have already received your information, and add some more schools on. You can just keep on doing that as much as you want and as often as you want, with as many schools as you would like, and they'll get your information. The schools themselves, when they get your FAFSA information, they're looking at your financial information to determine if you're eligible for some of their own money. Remember, we talked about those endowments. So they're looking at, are they able to give you some need-based aid based on your financial situation, that they would give you free money out of their own pockets. So also very important for you, for them to consider for you. And again, when you file a FAFSA, you're automatically applying for their free money to come to you just by filing a FAFSA. There's no separate application you need to do, except there are some schools that might require a separate form for you to fill out. If so, they'll let you know that by sending you an email or reaching out to you. Okay, I want to talk about a couple financial aid terms here for you to understand. First of all, cost of attendance. Every school has their own cost of attendance, different for every school. It's made up of these 5 categories, which I will not read to you. You can see them there. And if I gave you a minute to think about it, you'd come up with them. This is not rocket science. So those 5 areas of expenses make up cost of attendance. Here's an example of a cost of attendance. It happens to be for UC Davis. I show this to you just so you have an example of what you might find. You can Google search any name of any school and cost of attendance. You'll get a chart that looks something like this. Expense elements down the left-hand side, different living arrangements across the top, and you can see that then that results in different cost of attendance. This is per year cost of attendance, average cost for UC Davis, in this case, UC Davis students. So be aware of that. Be aware that that's available to you for any college or university across the country. Here is a comparison of cost of attendance. The first 3 types of schools that I've listed here are all public schools. They are subsidized by the state of California. The state gives them money to help them hold their costs down. Now, I will say these costs are still high in my view, but they'd be higher if the state would not subsidize their costs. So first of all, we have community colleges. There are 116 of them in the state of California. They are the lowest cost of attendance among the ones that I've listed here. Then there are the California State University schools, Chico State, Sonoma State, Sac State, etc. They're a bit higher. Their tuition's a bit higher. There are 23 California State University schools in the state. And then there are University of California schools. There are 9 undergraduate University of California schools. UC Davis, Berkeley, UCLA, Riverside, Irvine, San Diego, Merced, etc. And they're the highest cost public schools. And then there are private schools. Remember, we talked about private schools. They're all over the country, up and down the West Coast. What I've listed here is just one, University of Pacific. It's in Stockton. And here is their annual cost of attendance, over $72,000. And I know you look at that and you say, okay, thank you so much. Forget it. I'm out. No way am I going to look at private schools. Sticker shock. Thank you so much, but I'm out. But remember, I told you that private schools have a lot more of their own money that they can give away. And I've told my parents, students all the time that they were planning on going to one of the public state public schools, and also applied to a private, very expensive private school in state or out of state. And as it turned out, because of the very generous offer of free money from the schools themselves, it was less expensive for that student to attend that very expensive private school than it was for them to attend one of the state schools. So again, my message to you is don't give up on the private schools. They may be willing to offer you quite a bit of free money out of their own coffers. Okay, another financial aid term, and I've already mentioned it briefly, expected family contribution. This is what the federal government says about expected family contribution. It is a measurement of student and families' ability to pay post-secondary educational expenses. It's made up of a student component based on income and assets and a parent component based on income and assets. Every family that files a FAFSA in the United States will get an expected family contribution calculation back from the federal government. Almost every family that gets that EFC from the federal government will believe that number is too high. They'll say, I cannot believe the federal government believes I can pay this much money to help my student in college next year. And if you feel that way, all I can say is you wouldn't be alone. In some cases, perhaps you made a mistake on your FAFSA. Maybe you put some numbers in incorrectly. So you want to take a look at that and be sure if it just looks outrageously high to you, your EFC. If I can help with that in any way to help dissect that and help you understand if maybe you did make a mistake, I'd be happy to do that. Just reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to help. Okay, the whole reason that we file a FAFSA is to get a financial aid offer. That's what we're looking for. That's the whole end game here. Hopefully the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, if you will. So take a look at this. For every school that you apply to and you get accepted to, and you've listed that school on your FAFSA, you will get a financial aid offer, guaranteed. Now, it may take a while. For example, for the University of California schools and for the Cal States, you can fill out your FAFSA in October or November, for example. You will not see your financial aid offer until March or April. That's just how long it takes. Other schools don't take quite that long, but it could take a while for you to be able to get your financial aid offer from them. So the financial aid offer comes from the financial aid office, and they start by creating a formula. And here's the formula, they take their cost of attendance, they subtract your EFC, and what they would get as a result is your financial need as a student. That financial aid office at that school will attempt to give you financial aid, those 4 types of financial aid, equal to your financial need. Sometimes they can meet all of your financial need with financial aid, and sometimes they can't. Sometimes they come up short. If they come up short, then you have unmet need or financial need unmet by financial aid. Then what do? Well, then maybe you need to take another job, gain more income, sell a car, take another loan perhaps, or change schools to a school that's less expensive. You just have to evaluate that case by case, family by family. Schools offer varying amounts of financial aid from themselves. Some are more generous than others. Some are more generous in a given year than a different year. Applying to multiple schools gives you more financial aid offers to consider. See who's going to give you, a fantastic deal. Okay, if you're going to file a FAFSA, and I hope you do, you're going to need an FSA ID for the student and an FSA ID for one parent. FSA ID is Federal Student Aid Identification. It is a username and password combination for the student and for one parent. This is what you'll use, your FSA ID, to electronically sign your FAFSA. So you need to get it. And you can get it anytime. You don't have to wait until you file your FAFSA. In fact, I recommend that you don't. You can do this FSA ID ahead of time. A username and password. Why? Because you don't have enough usernames and passwords already, right? So be sure you remember this. I help families all the time fill out their FAFSA. By far, without a doubt, the hardest part of filling out a FAFSA is them remembering their FSA ID, username, and password. You'll do yourself a big favor if you write it down and don't forget it. That would be very helpful. Here's a federal student aid helpline. The way I remember it is 1-800-4 and it's well staffed. They have a lot of great information. If you need help with FSAID or with your FAFSA, don't be afraid to call them, Federal Student Aid Helpline. They can help you out, and they have long hours during financial aid season to be able to help families. Here is a summary of the financial aid process. Don't worry, I'm not going to read all of these. I am going to just note a couple. Start here. Student and parent each get a FSA ID. You come down the page, file a FAFSA every year as soon as possible after October 1st. And then there's a few other things that happen as you go through the process. Boom, boom, boom. Right here, receive a financial aid offer. That is what we're looking for. That's why we file a FAFSA. We want to see the financial aid offers. Then when we see that, we're going to know exactly what it's going to cost us out of pocket or through loans to be able to attend the school that we're interested in for our student, for ourselves, for our son or daughter. When do you file a FAFSA? Well, you got to do it every year. It opens up October 1st. Every year that the student is in school, you got to file a FAFSA. It's not one and done. You got to file it every year. Where do you file a FAFSA? Studentaid.gov, or you can Google search FAFSA. This is what the page looks like. I give you that so you'll know what it looks like. If you're just starting out, you start here. You don't have to do all of your, you don't have to do the whole FAFSA in one sitting. You can save your work. You can come back later, come back as a returning user. You want to finish your FAFSA. You want to correct some information. You want to add schools. We talked about that. You just go back through that portal right there. Okay, so the FAFSA has gotten easier and easier to fill out every year, for which we are all very grateful, for sure. One of the reasons it's gotten easier is because of this IRS DRT, or Internal Revenue Service Data Retrieval Tool. And what it does is when you're filling out a FAFSA, it'll ask you if you want to use the IRS DRT. I tell families all the time to say yes to that question because it's easy, fast, and accurate, just as it says there on the screen. You'll leave the FAFSA page for a bit. You go out to the IRS website. The system will go in and grab all of the financial information it needs off of your 2021 tax return. Grab it out of there, bring it back, drop it right into the FAFSA exactly where it needs to go. All the right boxes, all the right data, no transposing of numbers. It's really, really quick. About as quickly as I described it is about as quickly as it goes. So it's awesome. I recommend it. Use it if you can. If you can't use it or you choose not to, then you'll have to have your tax return in front of you. You'll read off some numbers on your tax return. You'll type them into the FAFSA. Just keep doing that. Do that again. Do that again. Of course, there's risk that you put it in the wrong box on the FAFSA. There's risk you'll transpose numbers, etc. So use the IRS DRT. That's my recommendation to you if you can. Why file a FAFSA? Okay, so very quickly. Again, it is the gateway for you for your 4 types of financial aid coming from these 3 primary sources. It really only takes about 30 minutes to complete. In fact, you can do it even quicker if you remember your FSA ID, username and password. As soon as you fill out a FAFSA, you're going to get your expected family contribution value. The first thing you're going to get is a confirmation page that says congratulations with the name of the student, big bold big bold letters, sorry. And if you scroll down that page, as soon as you hit submit on the FAFSA, scroll down that page, you're going to see your EFC. By the way, you don't have to wait until you file a FAFSA to get your EFC. I've got 4 different EFC calculators on our website under the financial aid tab under a heading called Expected Family Contribution Calculators. I particularly like the first one on the list. It's called Taming the High Cost of College. But you could, before you even file your FAFSA, do a calculation to determine what your EFC looks like. Again, on that confirmation page, when you scroll down, you'll see your EFC, you'll see your Pell Grant eligibility. Am I eligible for free money from the federal government? It will tell you that. You'll see your federal loan eligibility, students. And I've told you that's the best type of loans as a student if you need student loans. And then soon thereafter, you'll find out from the California Student Aid Commission if you qualify for the Cal Grant. Again, free money from the state of California. Remember, Cal Grant deadline, March 2nd. Here are, every year I have families who tell me they're not going to file a FAFSA because it's too complicated, it's too confusing, I'm too busy, I don't have enough time to do it. We make too much money. I don't trust the government. Whatever the reason may be, they say they're not going to file a FAFSA. So I put together 6 what I think are, and hopefully you believe it as well, compelling reasons to file a FAFSA. So here we go. We're going to go through them really quickly. 1, regardless of income level, a FAFSA has to be filed to receive the free California community college tuition. So at many of the 116 California community colleges, that you can get 2 years of free tuition. By the way, I say this is the best deal of anything you can buy in the United States. I don't care what you're buying. But not all, by the way, not all California community colleges offer the 2 years free tuition. So I'm most familiar with Shasta College because it is essentially in my backyard. So I'll talk about that school. But if you're not going to Shasta College, you're going to a different school, you may want to check it out on their website or give them a call. Do they offer the free 2 years of tuition? But here's what Shasta College says, their mantra, if you will. You're a first-time student, you're a full-time student, you file a FAFSA, you get free tuition. So I love alliteration. There's a lot of F's there. First time, full-time, file a FAFSA, free tuition. And by the way, that is regardless of income. So it is an awesome, awesome program. So again, check that out. But you've got to file a FAFSA in order to be able to qualify. Second, filing a FAFSA allows access to government student loans. I've already talked about why that's important. Third, you may have a special circumstance case that comes up in your life as a family. I'm going to talk about that more on the next slide. Fourth, you can qualify for the California Middle Class Scholarship, an offer of free money from the state, even if you earned up to $217,000 of income in 2021, and you have up to $217,000 of assets. And I'll talk about which assets you report and which you don't a little bit later. Fifth, some schools will not consider a student for merit scholarships until they've filed a FAFSA. More and more schools are requiring a FAFSA to be filed. So all along in this video, I've been talking about need-based aid or financial aid based on your financial need or based on your financial situation. Merit scholarships, so that's need-based aid. Merit scholarships are based on a talent or a skill that a student has, regardless of income. So perhaps the student's a great student, they're a great academic, they're a great athlete, they're a great artist, they're a great musician, and the school says, hey, we're trying to upgrade our art program here. You're a great artist. We'd love you to come to our school and help us upgrade our art program. And we'd love you to come so much that we're going to give you some money. We're going to give you some free money in the form of an art scholarship. And they make that offer to you. That's a merit scholarship or merit aid, and not based on your income. But more and more schools are requiring that FAFSA be filed even to get a merit scholarship. And then finally, number 6, this year for the first time, the state of California is emphasizing to all schools across the state that every senior file a FAFSA before they graduate, unless they opt out, choose to opt out on that. Okay, quick word about special circumstances. I mentioned that. So remember that you're going to school in 2023 fall, 2024 spring, but your financial aid is based on your income from 2021. Well, a whole lot could happen in a family between 2021 and 2023 or 2024. And we've got some things listed there on the screen. We hope none of those things happen to our families in the North State, but we know that sometimes things happen. So let's say your income is not what it was in 2021, in 2022 or 2023. You have the ability to go back to the financial aid office at the school. You can say, hey, this is what what has happened to my family. My parents' income from 2021 was this, but now in 2022, it's this. And so we had some problems, lost a job, had an illness, whatever it may be. And the school, the financial aid office at the school, you're going to be talking to them, making your appeal to them, a special circumstances appeal, has the ability to go in and change your FAFSA. They can, in my example, they can go in and reduce the income on your FAFSA from 2021. They can reduce it. By the way, you can't reduce it, and you have to use your 2021 income when you file a FAFSA for this upcoming academic year. You don't have a choice. They can go in and change your FAFSA. You can't. And that would perhaps lower your EFC, increase your financial need, and potentially increase your ability to get financial aid. So they have the ability to change your FAFSA, but you can't. That they can only change your FAFSA in these special circumstances cases if you have a FAFSA on file. So I tell families, it's kind of it's just good insurance, right? Have your FAFSA on file in case you need to go back and make an appeal to them in the financial aid office. I want you to be aware that you can do that, and it's totally legitimate for you to go back and talk to that financial aid office if something has happened in your family. Okay, in the state of California, there's two potential financial aid applications that you could fill out. One is the FAFSA. We've talked about that. That's for U.S. citizens or eligible non-citizens. If you've got a Social Security number, file a FAFSA. By the way, you don't fill out both, one or the other. If you're an undocumented student, no Social Security number, you're going to go to the California Dream Act. It's at caldreamact.org in the California Student Aid Commission site, and you're going to fill that out. Don't fill out both, one or the other. By the way, federal aid, you're not eligible for federal aid if you file a Dream Act. You are eligible for California aid, and you're more than likely eligible for school aid as well. Okay, so what amount of money is available from each of the sources for financial aid? Well, let's talk about that. So for limited and middle income families, I'm going to look at this through the grid of those three primary sources of financial aid, okay? Federal, state, and school themselves. Federal aid, Pell Grant, free money from the federal government between $700 and $7,000. The lower the income, the more potential for the Pell Grant aid. By the way, it's you can have a Pell Grant for 6 years if you're in a 4-year program, for up to 6 years. You can use your Pell Grant at any regionally accredited school across the United States. And then there's work study and federal loans. We've talked about that. California aid can only be used in California. You can't take Cal Grant out of state, for example. Okay, so Cal Grant, anywhere between about $1,700 and to almost $15,000. It's good for 4 years. I'll talk more about the value of the Cal Grant depending on what type of school you go to. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Here's the California College Promise Program. That's the 2 years free tuition, right? We talked about that already. And then institutional aid. Could be need-based, could be merit-based, based on talent or skill. Varies by school. We don't know. By the way, if you or I took a look at your financial situation today, and we could tell you with pretty good clarity how much federal aid you're going to get. I'm going to tell you how much California aid you're going to get, because those are set by standards and by rules, but couldn't tell you how much institutional aid you're going to get. That's kind of the wild card here in all cases. That's why I say to apply to multiple schools and see who's going to give you a great deal out of their own free money from the schools themselves. All right, higher income families from the federal government. Well, you're not going to get a Pell Grant. That's for lower income families. You may still qualify for federal student loans. California, for higher income families, 2 years free tuition. Remember, at some schools, many schools, regardless of income, even if you're high income. Then there's the California Middle Class Scholarship. If you perhaps make too much money to qualify for a Cal Grant, you could still qualify for the Middle Class Scholarship. We talked about how much you could earn. It's only good at a Cal State school or at a UC school. Be aware of that. And award amounts vary. By the way, for this year, for the first time, a student that gets a Cal Grant could also, on top of that, perhaps get a Middle Class Scholarship award, which is very, very cool. Award notifications usually come out late for the Middle Class Scholarship, usually about August. So be aware of that. All right. By the way, that Middle Class Scholarship is kind of a complicated formula as well. Institutional aid for higher income families, well, you're not going to get need-based aid because you make too much money, but you could still get a merit-based scholarship based on a talent or a skill. Then down at the bottom here, for all families, the Western Undergraduate Exchange Program, or WUI. If you go out of state to a public school, you could pay 2 times, 3 times, or maybe 4 times the cost of in-state tuition. But if you go under the WUI program, you'll pay no more than 150% or 1.5 times the cost of in-state tuition, which is a pretty good deal. So if you're interested in going out of state to a public school, take a look at the WUI website, and you'll see all the schools that participate. It is a competitive program. You don't get it automatically. So just follow the rules that are on the website for the schools themselves about the WUI. If you're interested in that, it's a great program. It can save you a whole lot of money if you're going out of state. All right, now we're going to spend a few minutes talking about the Cal Grant. The reason I spend some time on this is that it's so important. It's such a generous offer of free money. So many families in our North State can qualify for it. I want to make sure that you understand it and understand it well. So first of all, Cal Grant's a little complicated, so give me a minute here to try and explain it. Cal Grant comes three different ways: Cal Grant A, Cal Grant B, and Cal Grant C. Cal Grant A and Cal Grant B are for colleges and universities. Cal Grant C is for tech schools, trade schools, and some community college courses. Cal Grant A has a 3.0 GPA requirement or higher attached to it. Cal Grant B, 2.0 or higher, but less than 3.0, obviously. Cal Grant C has no GPA attached to it. Okay, then we come in here to the income ceiling table. This is for parents, income ceiling in 2021. Then we go to family size. So let's see how this works. So let's say we have a family of 4. We have a student who has over a 3.0 GPA. That family could make, those parents could make in 2021 up to $125,600 and still qualify for a Cal Grant. However, if the student had less than a 3.0 but more than a 2.0, family income would be limited to $66,000. So having good grades could make you eligible for Cal Grant. Students get good grades, always. There's good reasons for that. Then there's an asset ceiling for parents. Parents can have no more than $97,200 in assets. By the way, income is what you earn in a given year, in this case, 2021. Assets are what you've accumulated over a lifetime, if you will, in terms of assets. I'm going to tell you in a few minutes exactly what gets reported as an asset on the FAFSA and what doesn't. But a little spoiler here, a couple things that I'll tell you right off the top that don't get included are the value of your primary home and anything you have, any money you have in a retirement account, in retirement accounts. They do not get reported. They do not count against this asset ceiling. All right, here's another document that I've created just to make the Cal Grant a little more complicated, depending on the type of Cal Grant you have, A, B, or C, and depending on where you go to school, you get a different value for your Cal Grant each year. So CCC, California Community College, California State University School, University of California schools, private nonprofits like Simpson University in Reading, Stanford, University of the Pacific, etc., and then private for-profit schools. So find your type of school, find your Cal Grant type, and find your value of the Cal Grant. So let's say you got a Cal Grant A and you're going to UC Davis, you're going to get $13,104. For lower income families, it's possible to get a stipend as well. So you can get the $13,104 plus the $1,648. So just look at that for any box in here. Take a look at what might be available to you. And remember, Cal Grant C, this row right here, is for tech schools, trade schools, and some community college courses. TF is tuition and fees, and B/S is books and supplies. There are a number of ways to get a Cal Grant. They're listed here. The easiest way is to coming out of high school. You got a 2-year window, one when you're a senior, and then 1 year later. If you meet all those 5 criteria I mentioned to get a Cal Grant, and you've filed a FAFSA within that 2-year window, you're going to get a Cal Grant. You're going to get your money, no doubt about it. You're entitled to it. That's the easiest way. There's some other ways to get a Cal Grant. If you're interested in talking about that, just reach out to me. In the interest of time, I'm not going to talk about that right now. All right, some of the things you're going to be asked on the FAFSA to fill out. Income, again, we're using 2021 for the 23-24 year. Parents' income. Here's a question that I often get, and one that parents often get wrong. If parents are separated or divorced and not living together, which parent's income goes on the FAFSA? And the answer is right here. The parent that the student lived with more over the prior 12 months. That's prior to filing the FAFSA. So whoever the parent lived with the most prior to filing the FAFSA in the prior 12 months. That's if parents are separated or divorced and not living together. It has nothing to do with who claims them on the tax return, has nothing to do with who makes the most money or who makes the least money. All right, so that's an important rule to understand. Not my rule, federal government rule. Students' income also will be reported, but students can make up to $7,600 in 2021, and it has zero impact on their expected family contribution. All right, assets, parents' assets. Probably about 5% of the value of parents' assets get added on top of the EFC. 20% of student assets get added on top of the EFC. So that's a pretty big hit. So if we can get assets out of a student's name legally and legitimately, let me repeat that, legally and legitimately, we may want to do that. By the way, income comes from 2021 in the rearview mirror, already done, nothing you can do about it. Assets are calculated as of the day you file your FAFSA. So if you haven't filed your FAFSA yet and you want to move some assets around legally and legitimately, so you have less to report on your FAFSA, you can do that. So for example, for students, you can put your money into a 529 educational savings plan because the rules by the federal government on the FAFSA are that regardless of whether that 529 plan is in the name of the student or in the name of the parent, it is supposed to be reported as an asset of the parent. That's a good thing. Secondly, personal belongings like a car for a student or for parents do not have to be reported as an asset. The value of that car does not need to be reported. If students have been growing their savings account over time because they're going to buy a car soon, as an example, then instead of reporting all of those assets in their saving on the FAFSA, the savings account on the FAFSA, which is required, they could, and they're planning to buy a car soon, they could buy the car, run the amount of their money in their savings account down a bit so they have less to report on the FAFSA, then file their FAFSA, because again, remember, it's assets as of the day you file your FAFSA. So just be aware of that. You may want to use that strategically to your advantage, again, legally and legitimately, to lower your EFC, so you might be eligible for more financial aid. Let me clarify, you did not hear me say, students, that everybody should buy a car. You did not hear me say, students or parents, that students should deplete their savings account. That may not be the best thing for them to do. Just giving you some examples so you understand how the rules work. Okay, assets. Which ones to declare and which not to declare. It's easier for me to start with what you don't declare. First, your home equity in your primary home. Retirement accounts, IRA, 401k, 403b, Roth, Simple, SEP, none of those. Life insurance products, annuities do not get reported. If you own a business, ranch, or farm and your family owns more than 50% of that business, ranch, or farm, and you have fewer than 100 employees, no assets of that business, ranch, or farm get reported. And personal belongings, vehicles, cars, boats, trucks, household goods, jewelry, furniture, tools, clothing, none of that value gets reported. So what does? Cash, checking, savings, investment real estate, property other than your main home, rental properties. So you would take fair market value minus what you owe. That would be the reportable asset on the FAFSA. Stocks, bonds, trusts, or other investments not in retirement accounts. And then college savings plans or those 529 plans. But remember, always report them as an asset of the parents. Okay, here's some other things you're going to be asked on the FAFSA. Why would I talk about number in the household? That seems rather simple. Well, it is. Count the student, parents, siblings, and any other people that are living in the home if parents are paying more than 50% of their living expenses. So let's say grandma's living in the home, parents are paying more than 50% of grandma's living expenses. You can count grandma in the number in the household. Higher the number in the household, lower the EFC, higher the financial need. That's why I let you know that. Number in the household in college, count the student, any other siblings that are also going to be in college that year. If parents are also in college, you cannot count them in the number in the household. All right, coming down the stretch here. If you can get enough financial aid, consider these options. Here's a long list. Just the top one I want to mention, negotiate. You can go back to the financial aid office. Be kind, be polite, thank them for their offer of financial aid. Tell them that you'd like to come to their school. You'd really like to have some more financial aid, particularly that free money part. You may not exactly say it that way, but that's what you're looking for. You can talk to them. They could say yes. Private schools have more of their own money to give out than public schools do, but public schools could say yes too, or they would say no, but they won't. They can't, if they can't say to you something like no, and because you ask, I'm going to take $3,000 away from my original financial aid offer. No, they won't do that. They can't do that, so you don't have to worry about that. As good as getting more money would be in terms of your college future and college costs, reducing your costs is equally good. So here's a few things listed here. I'm just going to talk about two. One is graduate on time, stay the course, get in and get out. The longer you're there, costs you more money. The government's now reporting 6-year graduation rates and 8-year graduation rates. That's outrageous. That's ridiculous. Do not take that long to graduate. Costs you money. Career planning before you go. If you go to a school and you need to change your major, you're probably going to lose credits. You're probably going to have to go longer, take more credits. It's probably going to cost you more money. Changing majors is okay, by the way. It's fine. But if you can avoid it, you may save some money. So if we can help you at College Options with career planning, help you maybe understand what you want to study a little better, please reach out. We'd be more than happy to help you. What about scholarships? Your high schools, best place to go. They've got a list. They've seen scholarships year after year. McConnell Foundation for all 5 counties that we deal with. Ford Family Foundation for Siskiyou County students as well. Very generous offers of free money from these foundations. Here's 2 websites that have databases. You can check those out, scholarship databases, local chambers, civic groups, etc. Here's a unique one. A congresswoman in Southern California has her staff put together a student resource guide. It's got a long, long list of scholarships there. People have asked me, parents have asked me about national scholarships over the years. Not a big fan of national scholarships because there's a lot of competition, but here are the 3 largest search engines listed here. If you're interested in going that route, you can take a look at those. Finally, and maybe most importantly, your financial aid office at your school. What I tell families all the time is the people that work in the financial aid office should be your best friends. Why do I say that? Because all day, every day, whatever you're doing, you know what they're doing? Helping people find money to go to college. And what are you looking for? Money to go to college. So reach out. Don't be afraid of them. They offer you, they owe you good answers. So don't be afraid of them. Here's some other pages that are found on our website as well. Student loans. First page is students. Federal subsidized, meaning the government pays the interest while you're in school. They're the best ones to get first. They're limited in the amount they can give you per year. Then you go to unsubsidized loans, meaning that the federal unsubsidized loans, meaning that the interest accrues as soon as you take the loan. On the second page, there are federal loans for parents and for graduate students. The interest rates are higher, the loan fees higher. They may not be the best approach for you parents. You may do better in the private student loan market. I often reference the website simpletuition.com if you're, quote unquote, shopping for a loan for parents for education. Just a word on spending your education dollar wisely. Retention rates, graduation rates, retention, number of students started as freshmen, returned as sophomores, graduation, number of students that started as freshmen, graduated in 4 years here or 6 years here. Just be aware that some of these rates are low from some really good schools. Why are they low? Probably because students couldn't get all the classes they needed to stay in sequence to graduate on time. So students, be aware of that. Advocate for yourself. You need that course. Try and get it as best you can. If you can't get it at your school, perhaps you can take it at a community college. Perhaps you can take it online from a different school. I just recommend strongly, if you're going to a 4-year program, get in and get out in 4 years or less. If you want to look at these rates for any school, you can look at that website right there, and you can look at any school in the country. This is our offices in downtown Reading, College Options, collegeoptions.org. This is the landing page for our website. There's financial aid tab there, financial aid tab there. Some great information on that tab, on that website. Here's a checklist. It's also on our website on the financial aid tab. 2 pages, senior year, month by month. Don't miss anything. Meet all the deadlines. All good. Here, if we had a legal department, this is what they would tell me to tell you. I'm not a certified financial planner. I'm not an accountant. I've been talking to you about financial aid and how to lower your EFC perhaps. But before you go do something crazy with your money, you may want to talk to a certified financial planner or an accountant. Remember that financial aid is just one piece of your entire financial picture as a family. Some considerations, and then we're done. Cal Grant's good for 4 years. You can burn it up at a community college. So if you're at a community college for more than 2 years and you think you've got, and if you're there for 3 years or 4 years, you could burn up your Cal Grant in those 4 years. You think you've got 2 years left to go to a 4-year school, you may not. Meet all deadlines, Cal Grant March 2nd. But I also want to say to you, except if you're going to a California community college, Cal Grant deadline is September 2nd. But why even think about that? Just file by March 2nd, you'll be in good shape. One quick word about verification. It's a financial aid term. It's a process from the federal government. About 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 families get called for verification. The federal government will ask the financial aid office to reach out to you. They'll say to you, hey, prove to us that all the information you put on your FAFSA is true. How do you do that? Rule number 1, only put true information on your FAFSA. So that's the way you do that. The school will tell you what they need from you to be able to finish out this process, paperwork, signatures, whatever they may need. Don't be fearful, nothing to worry about. If you get called for verification, it happens. You don't have to worry about it. Don't sweat it. It is a hassle. Yes, I will agree. It's a hassle. You can't get your financial aid until you finish up the verification process. But don't worry about it. Nothing to fear. With thanks and gratitude to McConnell Foundation in Redding, Ford Family Foundation in Roseburg, Oregon. These foundations give money to college options, which allow us to do what we do and provide the services we provide at no cost to families in our 5-county region. We also have a contract this year with the California Student Aid Commission, for which we are grateful. This is my last slide. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you've made it to the end. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope I've taken some of the mystery out of the process. Here's my name again, Brad Williams. I'm with College Options. Best way to get me, that email. Here is also my phone number that rings directly in my office on my phone. So that wraps up this recording. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was helpful, and we'll see you next time.